this is a follow-up video that I've been meaning to do for a while. Back in the summer of 2020, I walked the Te Araroa trail from December 10th, 2020 to April 13th, 2021, I think. A week before I started the trail, I posted a gear video. My goal with that video was to help people who were considering on walking the TA, just to go through the things that I had in my kit that I ended up with after probably a year and a half of research prior to walking it. So I think an important part of that is to go over what I ended up with at the end. Because yes, I had tramping experience going into the TA. I'd done, probably a dozen or so overnighters in the Tararoas and places like that, but nothing to compare to 5 months of continuous tramping. It's very different. You don't need me to tell you that. So I went in with some experience and then lots of research, and I still learnt a lot about my gear on the way, and I wanted to pass some of that on to anyone who is currently doing their research for the TA or another walk like it, because I found it, all the videos and things online, I found incredibly helpful. So I should have done this earlier. It's now been a year since I finished, just over a year. I've been doing a lot more tramping. I moved to a part of New Zealand that has a lot of tramping tracks and wilderness. So I have upgraded a lot of my gear since I finished. A lot of it was just worn, a lot of it I wanted to upgrade. And unfortunately I don't have everything that I finished the TA with. I've either misplaced it or thrown it away. So I'll go through what I do have. Yeah, let's start. I'll start off with the pack. I did have this in my previous video, and this did last me the entire walk. I'd highly recommend it, honestly. It's a Granite Gear Crown 60, Crown 260. I bought it off Amazon. I can't remember how much it was, but it was relatively inexpensive. It's freaking light for the amount of stuff you can get into it. I found that 60 liters was honestly probably 90% of the time it was more than I needed, and then there was that 10% of the time, like the Richmond Ranges, to a lesser extent the Tararoas, and some areas in the South Island where you needed to carry a lot of food, and it was kind of pushing it, for me at least. But I was walking with people that were probably carrying 50 litre packs. I was walking with some people who were carrying like 40, 45 litre packs, and they managed alright. So I guess it just depends on how much gear you have before you start buying your food, and I don't know what kind of food you like to eat. I was pretty hungry all of the time. I don't think that's uncommon. So yeah, highly recommend this. The only real areas of wear and tear I noticed were around the strap. Oh, it still smells. I soaked this too, and it's just part of the fabric now. My 5 months of my sweat. So it's worn through a little bit on these straps here. There's a couple of little holes and wear marks. But legitimately, like, that's it. That's it. I didn't have to do any repairs. No straps fell off. I've seen some people who had like straps and shit fall off, so I didn't have to deal with any of that, which is pretty sweet. If you're looking for like a 60 litre pack that's really light and will probably go to distance, I'd recommend that. I had a pack liner in here that was from Z-Packs. A lot of my gear was from Z-Packs. I think if you've done a bit of research, you know what they're like. They come highly recommended from a lot of the hikers in the States as an ultra light company. This was my pack liner that held everything inside it, and as you can see, There were definitely some holes worn in this by the ends, and I patched them up with duct tape as I went. I would be very surprised if it was still fully waterproof, but I mean, it didn't do too bad for what it is. You're gonna have to expect some holes with something so light. So yeah, I'm not mad about it. Pack. So for sleeping, I had the Cedar Summit Ether Light sleeping pad, which is great. I really rate this. It was thicker than any of the other sleeping pads I came across when I was on the trail. It doesn't weigh that much more than some of the other more popular options. It has the pump sack in it, so you're not blowing directly into it. So even after 5 months of inflating this, it doesn't get like moldy on the inside from your breath, which was pretty cool. The only downside is, it does have a few holes in it now. Well, at least it deflates. And that started relatively early. I used this the whole time, but by the time I got to like Palmerston North, it was already slowly deflating over the course of the night. I wasn't quite on the ground in the mornings, but wasn't far off it, you know, and I did look for the holes. I patched a couple of holes. I thought I'd nailed it, but it's still doing it, so it could be the valve or something. But in saying that, I did meet other people who had the same sleeping pad, and they did not have that issue, so I don't know. I guess this is a problem that you could run into with any ultralight sleeping pad, you know. For the life of me, I can't find my quilt that I had. It was a Thermarest Chorus. It was really light, but not super warm. Perfect for the North Island when I started in December. If you're starting even a little bit earlier than December, great. It's going to be warm, especially up north. It served me well. There were a few nights in the North Island where I had to layer up with thermals because the mornings were getting real crisp. You'd wake up around 4 a.m. and like the quilt just was not quite cutting it. I knew that going into it, and I knew I might have to replace it, and sure enough, when I got to Wellington, which is where I was living prior to the TA, I swapped it out for a sleeping bag that I've had for many years, and this is a Kathmandu Navigator, which is a comfort level of -2 degrees Celsius, so much warmer, and this was perfect for the rest of the South Island. Only downside is, of course, this was probably over twice as heavy as the quilt was, but you know, so be it. I had a pillow. The first night I slept on this thing, what is it? It's a Nemo Elite pillow or something like that. Philo Elite, there you go. The first night I slept on this, I was like, what the hell? But very quickly, a comfort like this, you get used to it, and in fact, you treasure it. Yeah, it's like not overly big, but man, this thing, I've got so used to it that now I still use this when I go out tramping, and I sleep like a baby on it. Honestly, it's great. So if you haven't thought about taking a pillow, not super necessary. You could always just sleep on one of your jackets or something. But I never regretted having this. It weighs like 80 grams or something, and it's, yeah, one of my creature comforts. I have a 6 Moon Designs Skyscape Trekker, which is another American brand that I bought off Amazon. Pretty cool looking tent. I got a lot of comments about it. It's pretty space age looking, very light. It was a trekking pole set up tent. This requires 2 trekking poles to set up, and I actually had 2 trekking poles with me, 2 Z-Pax trekking poles, and I required both of these to set up the tent. One of these poles broke when I was in the very beginning of Nelson Lakes, and then I ended up purchasing this aluminum pole that Six Moon Designs recommend. Is not as sturdy as a trekking pole, and what happened is I was 5 days out from finishing the TA in Southland, and there was a camp that was particularly exposed, and we had the worst windy night of the entire trail, and it basically ripped my tent to shreds. This pole bent so much in the wind that the thing just gave in, the zips broke, it collapsed at like 2:30 in the morning. I guess the moral of the story is, I don't know, good tent. I mean, it nearly got me there. It was reliant on trekking poles, which can be a pro and a con. I now walk with one trekking pole anyway. I found out probably halfway through the TA that I was kind of just walking with one, 80% of the time, and carrying the other one in my hand. So now I just use one, and I ended up buying another Six Moon Designs tent, one of the Lunar Solos, and that only requires one pole to set up. So I use that when I'm tramping now. A lot of the people I walked with, a lot of the Kiwis I walked with didn't use trekking poles at all. They're not really that common here, but I found that I kind of like them, especially just the one. Feels like a walking stick, and they're really useful to getting up hills and all that, and they really save your knees. But it's totally subjective. I don't know. You have to try it out for yourself. Alright. So cook kit, I use this Tokes aluminium pot, 900ml, which was just big enough to fit the a normal size gas canister in. And this thing is awesome. I still use it. It is still in really good shape considering I ate out of it every day for 5 months. Yeah, I'd highly consider that. I also use that X cup. If I could do it again, I would buy the size up. I'd get the X mug, because this one's just a little bit too piddly, especially if you like a big cup of coffee in the morning. I used I don't have it on me anymore, but there was a really cheap gas stove, this tiny little one on Amazon. It was a BRS stove. I used that. Awesome. Never had an issue with it. The only problem with it is if you're in a windy area, which is a similar problem for a lot of stoves. And I ended up buying one of those Soto Windmaster stoves when I finished as part of my new kit, and I use that now, and that really reduces the effect the wind has on your cooking. Electronics. Okay, I used a 10,000 milliamp power bank the whole time. This is not it, and the reason this is not it is because the one that I had stopped working after about a year after I bought it, and apparently that's not uncommon. Apparently they have a relatively short life, 1 to 2 years. So this is a replacement 10,000 milliamp one. I found that 10,000 milliamps was enough to charge my phone 2.5, sometimes 3 times. Not too bad. When it's on airplane mode, it's barely going to chew through any battery. So even on those 8+ day stretches, you're not really going to be dying for power. You could still use your phone to navigate and charge it 1 or 2 times, and you're going to be fine. Head torch. This was the Black Diamond head torch. It's still got battery in it from when I started out. I don't think I changed the batteries in this once, and I still take this with me tramping, and it's still on those OG batteries, because you know what, you never really use them. The most you're going to use this is in the mornings in huts when you're trying not to wake other people and you're getting ready to leave if you're leaving early. And even then, like, you should be using the red light, and that's going to use piss all battery. That's just like an LED. So yeah. This is the PLB, the personal locator beacon. I bought this one off a New Zealand website. It was probably the one I saw the most. A lot of people seem to have bought this one. I never had to use it. The batteries on them last like 10 years or something, unless you use them. So this is still good to go. I take it with me whenever I go out. Not whenever I go out, whenever I go out tramping, not when I go to the supermarket and shit. I knew 2 people on the trail that had to use theirs, and they worked. They were both rescued. So yeah, definitely invest in a PLB. It doesn't really matter what one you get as long as it's a legit one. What else? Clothing, yeah. Rain jackets. I had a Z-Pax Virtus rain jacket at the start of the trail, and that was featured in my last video. Yeah, super lightweight. It was definitely waterproof for like a couple of weeks. The problem with those super light rain jackets is they are not durable at all. I mean, that's just the nature of them, right? Maybe for some trails that are a bit more open, that'd be a bit more of a viable choice. But in New Zealand, the trails, even on the TA, are overgrown. There's a lot of nasty plants like bush lawyer, and there's a lot of gorse. Things are going to want to rip your nice, expensive, waterproof, ultralight rain jacket to shreds. I didn't really have that happen to mine. What happened to mine was just the wear and tear from my pack rubbing on the back when I was wearing it. It wore through the back within a month or two, and I wasn't even wearing it every day. It was just, yeah, not durable enough for me, unfortunately, and really expensive. So I ended up swapping it out for a MacPack Traverse, I think. And that was a good middle of the road jacket, but I lost that somewhere in Arthur's Pass, and I ended up pretty much having no rain jacket for the rest. I was just winging it. What I did find is that while I was tramping, I really didn't get cold, even if I was in the rain. My body temperature was pretty high, and remember, like, this is the summer. You're going to be hiking through the summertime. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I had like merino t-shirts. I pretty much wore this the entire way. You probably can't really see it on the camera, but it was quite sun faded by the end. There's these dark spots here, which look like sweat spots, but it's actually where the straps were. And there's one there where the belt was. I wore shorts, a pair of MacPack shorts every single day. I said in my earlier video that I like to wear leggings when I walk, and that used to be true, but on the TA, I don't think I wore leggings once. It was just skies out, thighs out. Yeah, shorts all day, every day, no matter what the weather was. And it was great. Cold weather gear. There's a puffer jacket that I took with me. Again, never really wore it, maybe in huts. I had beanies, I had thermals. Again, the thermals really came in handy when my quilt wasn't cutting it. But aside from that, I never really wore them, especially not while walking. You'll have the odd morning when you get up and you're walking, you're really like, you've still got your thermals on under your clothes, and you might have a jacket on because it's nippy, but you'll walk for half an hour and everyone will be stripping everything off because you just start warming up so quick, especially if you're got any kind of incline to go up. I had a pair of rain pants that I wore maybe once. Again, shorts all day, every day. But these I do still take with me because, yeah, they do come in handy if it's pissing down and you don't want to get wet. I found that sometimes if my shorts got wet and I was still walking for a long period of time, that's when I would get chafing in my thighs, and that was like the only time. So I really tried to avoid my shorts getting wet by either getting my rain jacket on early if it was really bucketing down, or these can be handy for that. The other big one, I guess, was shoes. So I had the Ultra Lone Peaks to start out with, and they are another exceedingly popular brand of through hiking trail runner. When I first wore them around the house, and they were great, and then I started the TA, and they almost immediately gave me tendonitis in my left Achilles tendon. Now that is partially my fault. The second day of the TA on 90 Mile Beach, I got really carried away and did like a massive 2 days in one because I was feeling invincible, and that really messed up, fucked my foot essentially. 90 Mile Beach is hard enough on people's feet as it is. Most people hobble off that beach, and I made it way worse for myself by trying to squeeze it all into as few days as possible. So I don't recommend that. But also the ultras are notorious for rubbing on tendons and causing that. So unfortunately I had that happen to me, and I walked like that all the way to Auckland. And then I bought a pair of New Balance Heroes, and I couldn't recommend them enough. They were fantastic, and I wore New Balance Heroes for the rest of the trail. Went through 2 pairs, and I'm about to buy a new pair very soon for my tramping here. So shoes are super subjective, 100%. Everyone was wearing different stuff. The ultras were common. I saw them a lot, but I also heard a lot of complaints about them. I don't know if I want to touch on the whole trail runners versus boots thing, but let's just say before I did the TA, I was a fan of boots. I had a big pair of leather boots. I still have them, in fact, and I used to go tramping in those. Great. Then I learned about trail runners, tried those out, and I don't think I'll ever go back. I'm so much quicker on them, lighter on my feet, they dry faster. So yeah, totally subjective. Yeah, you will learn. You will learn what works for you. That's the beauty of it. So this is like my little med kit. Maybe I'll touch on a few things here. This stuff here, this Voltaren Emu Gel, this was really useful. It's basically just an anti-inflammatory cream, and I had a few times, particularly early on, where my knee swelled up. I think it was a little bit of bursitis. This was great for that. Pawpaw, good for just about everything, especially if you get chapped lips or sunburn or any kind of scratches that start to get infected. This stuff's really helpful. I would always take anti-nausea pills in case you get sick. And the other thing is wasps. If you're walking through particularly the top of the South Island anytime in January, February, March, you're going to encounter an ungodly amount of wasps. If you're like me and you don't react that great to wasp stings, you might want to take either something for anaphylaxis, or even just a oral steroid if you swell up really bad like I do, because you will get stung. It's highly likely, and you'll probably be a couple of days out from help. I know I haven't covered everything because I just don't have everything on me anymore, but hopefully I provided a decent amount of information. If you have any questions, I'll definitely answer them. Just pop a comment down there, and yeah, I'm happy to help. Anything about the TA. And besides that, just good luck on the TA or whatever through hike you're planning on doing.